both my parents didn't actually want me to go into veterinary medicine in general, and my mom wanted me to go to medical school. She's a nurse, and so like human medicine, and so but I was pretty gung-ho about it, and so once they saw my motivation and passion for veterinary medicine, I think they started to understand more. I feel like they still have no idea what the heck that I do, which is fine. Most people don't.
Like, did the internship say lab animal, lab animal, lab animal? Because the internship is a year for you to grow, right? Supposedly, in theory, you're supposed to be able to grow. You're going to have great colleagues. You're going to have great mentorship. Did it fry you on small animal, or did you go into your internship already knowing, hey, the only reason I'm doing this internship is I need it for my residency?
So you say emotional control, and I see what you mean by that. It can be, but I also feel like an important component, at least for me, I can't speak for all the lab animal vets, that it's emotional understanding, which is something that I mentioned because I kind of struggled through residency because I was feeling all these emotions. And
what if I told you that some of the most important veterinarians in the world work in places you'll never see, caring for animals you'll never meet, making decisions most people never have to think about? Today's episode isn't about puppies and kittens. It's about responsibility, ethics, emotional weight, and the parts of veterinary medicine no one teaches in school. My guest today is a veterinarian who works at the intersection of science, animal welfare, and hard moral decisions. She's a lab animal veterinarian, a board-certified specialist, and someone whose job is often misunderstood, quietly judged, and absolutely essential. This conversation is about what lab animal medicine really is, what it costs emotionally, what it demands ethically, and what it teaches you about life, responsibility, and compassion, where there are no perfect answers. These are the lessons that don't come from textbooks. These are the truths you earn. This is Irreplaceable Truths.
keep that incognito profile.
Yeah, you do have to keep the incognito profile. Well, Kat, welcome. I'm so excited. Like I told you before, you're like a unicorn when it comes to veterinary medicine, because we hear about lab animal medicine, we are told about lab animal medicine, but you very rarely meet a lab animal boarded veterinarian. And that's exactly what you are. So before we get into that fun stuff, why don't you give me a little history about you, where you're from, what got you into veterinary medicine, what made you realize that, you know, this is the path for me, and then we can jump into the whole lab animal thing.
Sure. So obviously, thanks for having me on your podcast. I feel very honored. So a little bit about me. I am Russian. I was born in Russia before immigrating here when I was a kid. I wanted to be a vet since I was a kid, and I think that's can be said for lots of other veterinarians, but I did not really pursue it up until undergrad, which is when I got involved in a axolotl research group. Axolotls are hot right now too. They are these little amphibians that regenerate.
Yes, they're very hot right now.
Yeah.
They're very hot. They're almost impossible to get. They're illegal in California, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can still find them. But yeah, I got involved with that research group that studied regeneration in axolotls, and then I also started to pursue veterinary medicine a little bit more seriously then. So then I realized that you could combine veterinary medicine with research, and that's kind of how I entered vet school. So as you know, I went to vet school at Western University of Health Sciences, so I was really lucky to kind of stay local. And then I did get more experience in research throughout my veterinary education, and I knew I wanted to go into lab animal medicine after completing vet school, but I did do a year of the internship, which is where I worked with Dr. Gassel, as you've interviewed before. And then I was very lucky to be accepted into a into a residency in San Diego. And so this was a brand new residency. So for lack of a better term, I was their guinea pig. And so, but then I completed my residency and was very lucky to be accepted back into a position locally as a clinical veterinarian in lab animal. So.
Yeah, so Western's interesting because Western's one of those schools where you do your rotations elsewhere. It's not your traditional clinical stuff on campus. Mm-hmm. Did you do a lot of rotations with lab animal, or did you? And if you did, how did you set that up?
Sure. So for the fourth year curriculum, that's the one where we have a lot more flexibility because then you can, as you said, kind of pick and choose which rotations you want to go on. And I picked some I thought were pretty cool ones because I did get to do a lot of lab animal rotations. Let's say up by Davis, there was a cardiac contracting facility that works with sheep, so I got to go there for 2 months. I remember when I brought it up to my preceptor, Dr. Tara, who is now retired from Western, he was like, you need to do more small animal rotations, which I did. But yeah, I definitely feel like I trended towards lab animal rotations during my fourth year, which put me into connections and the networking abilities to then pursue lab animal afterwards, which I think is so important for students to get those networking connections during vet school, so then they have those opportunities afterwards.
Yeah, networking's huge.
Yeah.
In life, in general, right? Networking is huge. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you are and what you do. I'm actually very blessed because through my 30 some odd years in the veterinary world, I created a lot of network, not only in veterinary medicine, but people who help support veterinary medicine and also my clients, like roofers or GI specialists or anesthesiologists or attorneys or you name it, right? Jewelers, all these things. So if you ever needed anything, I had it in my phone. And I'm very lucky because now in my second half of my career, I'm actually able to use that network, mm-hmm. right? Like, oh, you remember all the times I blank? Mm-hmm. Well, I need your help for something. Mm-hmm. So networking is huge. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to, you said you were the quote unquote guinea pig of your residency. Mm-hmm. Was that more of a learning curve for you, for them, or was it both of you put together?
Both. I think both of us for the program and for myself as well, because I feel like the curriculum initially was not as was anticipated to be one way, but it ended up just being a little bit different than what they thought would be. And so, I thought that was actually kind of great, the residency being the first resident, because then you just learn to roll with the punches, and that's realistically how real life is as well, and just everything that you handle in veterinary medicine, you just got to, and it taught me more so than anything just to like roll with the punches and just and deal with some of that, because I know you're huge on that, the moral injury as well, because at first I struggled for, I would say, the first 2 years. I kind of had to learn about some of the, but perhaps this is independent to me, some of the I don't say compassion fatigue, but just kind of like some of the moral injuries that lab animal vets can experience. And so
I could imagine the moral injury that lab animal experiences is huge, because you're always having to do something because someone in power wants it done in a certain way. And that could either be the person doing the research, the company that's paying the bill. I could see that the owner, right. Mm-hmm. Now, are most of the residencies for lab animal through private, or are they usually university, or because you like I said, unicorn first off, mm-hmm. because you're here, mm-hmm. but also unicorn because you did a privately owned residency.
It was it's a nonprofit, and so a lot of their funding is through nonprofit donations, but they also do still obviously get funded through grants, which is how a lot of these academic institutions, a lot of them just depend on grants for some of the funding. And so, which is something I did want to discuss about how that can also be a concern for lab animal vets, because even though we're not paid by, let's say, the client, there's still a client, so to speak. And so whether it is a industry lab animal job or academia or government, there's still that, I don't want to say that other, but kind of a client which may have different, I don't want to say objectives, but create that difference in treatments and so forth. And yeah.
During your residency, did anyone ever have your back, or because it was privately owned? I'm just thinking of corporation in general, whether it's nonprofit, for profit, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Did they always say the client was right, or do they have your back if there was something that came up that you thought was questionable? Sure.
So I feel like lab animal is a little bit more unique in that most of the time, whatever you recommend, or I don't want to say have an opinion on, whatever your recommendation is, there might still be a little bit of pushback, but ultimately it usually comes down to veterinary opinion. There might always be another vet that would guide you if let's say you have a director or something like that, and there might be some compromise in your decision making to ensure that the researcher also can get whatever they need, but that you don't compromise on animal welfare. So generally I feel like lab animal is good in that regard, because you always have regulatory oversight as well, and you can advocate for the animal a lot, generally a lot better than small animal medicine, where it's the owner and the client. And so,
was there ever a point in your internship that you're like, oh, I could do small animal? Or like, did the internship say lab animal, lab animal, lab animal? Because the internship is a year for you to grow, right? Supposedly, in theory, you're supposed to be able to grow. You're going to have great colleagues. You're going to have great mentorship. Mm-hmm. Did it fry you on small animal, or did you go into your internship already knowing, hey, the only reason I'm doing this internship is I need it for my residency?
I pretty much went into my internship thinking that I needed experience for residency, and I'm so glad I got that clinical experience, because I feel like some of the lab animal residencies now do not have as high of a requirement for an internship, just because they're lacking in applicants. And so I really feel strongly that you do need that clinical experience from an internship, and so that was good, but I don't think it fried me. There was a couple. I love neurology, which was great, because again, I feel like with neurology, you either, it's a little bit more black and white to a certain extent, and so there's less.
Well, you think neurology is black and white?
No, well,
I think it's all shades of gray, and that's no pun intended. Like neurology, wow. So you've always been that higher thinker, in my opinion, because neurology to me
really
must be nuclear physics.
Oh, I feel like, because if an animal comes in and it either has it or it doesn't, in terms of some sort of disc disease or seizures, because that's, and so it's a little bit, that's what I thought, at least. And so that was the only other kind of consideration that I had. But again, thankfully I got into residency for lab animal. Our class was also, I feel like, really unique, because a lot of our intern class was really close. We helped each other out. It was great. And a lot of them went into residencies as well after. So I hate to say props to Dr. Gassel, but yeah, that was a good year. I don't feel like I was fried from it too much. So,
which is great, because most of the interns, you get paid when you actually do the math, pennies on the dollar for your work. And I've always been a huge proponent, which is like, if you don't know if you want to do residency, you could probably get a great mentor and learn a lot in just general small practice. You know, and that's kind of where we met. We were both doing a relief shift at an emergency clinic. So do you do your relief shifts just to keep your feet wet, or do you do it because you miss it, or do you do it just because you just need to get out of the lab?
Yes, and yes, really. I like having that extra clinical experience and the skills also. It's great. It's fun. I know it might not seem fun if you're doing it every single day. I can completely understand that the burnout that veterinarians have working in small animal medicine, 100%. I totally get it, because I feel like, again, just kind of going back to like that moral injury, it's much more acute and much more intense. And in a way, I do like some adrenaline, if that makes sense, and that rush that comes with dealing with like acute cases. And also just helping the animals kind of directly, and so yeah, I do it because of kind of all of those reasons, and also just to get a change and diversify what I do as well, because sometimes lab animal, I don't say it can get repetitive, but there's definitely so much variety in what you can do in lab animal medicine, but some of those clinical skills, I suppose, or just procedures and all of that, it's a little bit different, because we don't have, we generally, at least where I'm at, I'm sure there are other facilities where they do more intensive care of their animals, if that makes sense.
Well, you know, do you feel as if you have good muscle memory? Like if you basically are doing lab animal stuff and then you go do a relief shift, do you feel as if, you know, once you're in, it takes you a little bit to get going, or are you ready to go as soon as you get there?
It takes a little bit. Sometimes that's why I have to like kind of keep at it to keep that muscle memory going. But it's not to say that I don't do any clinical stuff at my job as well, because we do. So we do surgeries, we do procedures as well, just not as high of a volume. So, yeah.
Well, you know, so let's talk about, how was your experience in vet school? Do you think it prepared you well for what you were doing? I mean, did you think veterinary school prepared you for lab animal?
So Western does not have as much of a research focus, I would say. I feel like a lot of our classmates did go into small animal medicine, which is kind of, because we don't have a teaching hospital or teaching university, and so, but you can get those experiences still, as long as you're kind of self-motivated. So not to put that down, but I do have to say a huge thanks to Western, because it teaches you how to think, because the problem-based learning, and again, just kind of rolling with the punches. And so, yeah.
Yeah, the problem-based learning, that's some schools follow that model. And I like that, because I'm always the see one, do one, teach one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem-based learning. So I think I would have thrived with that. I'm not the old school, read a textbook, memorize, make note cards, you know, oh my gosh. And when I always joke around, like, and I feel so bad for all the virologists out there, but really, a whole semester of virology, is that really necessary? Now, maybe for lab animal it is, but I can't remember ever sitting down and having an in-depth virology talk about parvo, for example, or Khaleesi, or any of those.
Sure.
What is it like when you go and you tell someone, just general public, you're a lab animal veterinarian?
I usually don't, unless if I know them a little bit closer and might have an idea of how they will perceive me being a lab animal veterinarian. I just will say I'm a veterinarian if it's somebody new. And so I generally, because I know that there is a big stigma associated with lab animal vets and animal research as well. And so, yeah, that's why I mentioned we're generally underground and kind of in the basements and stay out of the limelight.
Yeah, incognito.
Yeah.
You're incognito. That I understand. So, I mean, what is the misconception that the public has about lab animal veterinarians?
Sure. Generally is that we are hurting animals. We are doing animal testing. Like sometimes people that are completely unaware of what animal testing versus like the makeup and shampoo and all of that stuff versus animal research is. So there is that huge misconception of that we are there hurting the animals, which is the complete opposite of what we're doing, really. And what animal research is all about is that we are there to promote their welfare, but also to, I don't want to say ensure, but to collaborate with researchers on what they want to learn about, which in turn benefits the world, really. So that's huge. So
it benefits other animals too.
Yeah.
So for people who have no idea about lab animal, what is your typical day?
Oh, I see. So it depends on the week because it can vary on how many other procedures that we have going on. It depends on the time of the year sometimes too, because at least where I'm at, there's summer break and winter break, and so some of the students kind of go away for vacation, so the research kind of dials down a little bit, and so it really just depends day by day. Someday I'll be in a procedure for 12 hours. Other days I will be in my office for 12 hours working on protocols. Other days we'll be dealing with a case or something that pops up. So that's what another thing that I really like about lab animal medicine is that you wear so many different hats, ranging from oversight to being hands-on to training. It is never ending on the things that you can learn and do.
I see the politics as being just an absolute nightmare, like absolute nightmare. Is that a big part of your job, dealing with all those different politics, whether it comes from the public thinking that you're putting makeup on a pig versus like the university saying we got to get this contract because most universities are grant funded, and you got to weigh that versus what it's actually you're going to be doing to the animals. You as an animal, watching out for the animal welfare, you got to fight for you're the voice for the animals. Mm-hmm. Does that ever weigh on you? Like, how bad are the politics? Because that's the one thing I just can't comprehend.
Yeah, there's definitely politics in terms of internal politics, but then again, so this is, I'm sure, true of anywhere that you work generally. And so that's always there. In terms of other politics, like administrative politics, that's definitely a component as well, which I know with the current administration that there is a component of what, I don't say they're trying to regulate, that has an effect on animal research through grants and cutting funding, through trying to cut in direct costs, which is basically pays for the overhead for animal research, really. And so that can have an impact. The whole thing is, I don't say generally comes in waves, and so you just kind of try not to get too amped up about what's going on and just focus on what needs to get done, if that makes sense. A
lot of my research deals with emotional labor, right? Mm-hmm. And emotional control. I would just think that you would have to have strong emotional intelligence in order to perform lab animal medicine because of what you just said. You got to just know how not to react, which is, I could see myself just blowing up because I could look at things and go, this is not the wisest thing to be doing, a politically correct way to say it.
Sure.
Do you believe that emotional control is a huge proponent of lab animal?
So you say emotional control, and I see what you mean by that. It can be, But I also feel like an important component, at least for me, I can't speak for all the lab animal vets, that it's emotional understanding, which is something that I mentioned because I kind of struggled through residency because I was feeling all these emotions and having like compassion fatigue and moral injury and things like that. And just, I feel like once you start to understand and have that introspection of the dilemmas or just what is going on, you can kind of take a step back and, I don't say not internalize it, but understand that it's there, feel it, so to speak, and then just act on what without emotions involved. And so I think that's lab animal is good in that regard, I feel like, because it allows you the space to kind of deal with the ethical dilemma of what's going on without acting kind of suddenly, if that makes sense.
And I'm going to put you on the spot, and let me set the stage.
Sure.
I always tell everyone I should have gone into dermatology because, number one, you never cure anything. Number two, there's no emergencies. Mm-hmm. What part of your job would make a veterinarian say, darn it, I should have gone into lab animal medicine?
Ooh, there's so many things, really. So many pros, which again, just one of those things that I mentioned is having that space and that time to kind of think things through, which I feel like you have less chance of burnout. Again, this is individual. I'm sure there are lab animal programs that are high volume, go, maybe like some industry settings where you're just like not able to take the time to kind of understand everything, if that makes sense, because that's what sometimes I feel like that's what it takes. So that's definitely one of the pros of lab animal medicine. Great quality of life, because there's really no emergencies. Sometimes there are things that require after hours, but generally pretty good quality of life, I think, pretty good balance on that regard. And again, it also depends on what species you're working with. I know, so if you're working with like primates, then I'm sure that's a little bit different, but I used to work with primates in residency, which took more time, but now we don't have primates where we're at. So yeah, quality of life is definitely huge. I think also the fulfillment that you get from helping kind of the greater good and humankind and all of that is big. Although you really can't talk about it too much, like other people don't understand. So that's there's the drawback of that. There's the sense of community in other lab animal vets, which is great because you do have this underground niche of individuals that do understand what you're going through, and so that's huge as well, I think.
Well, I would hope that your annual meeting would be in someplace exotic, because if it's in Kansas City, that's not
oh no!
You know what I mean? Is it where are your annual meeting?
I think it's been in Kansas City before, Nashville, Long Beach. So nothing
Costa Rica. Like at least like Vex goes to Costa Rica. They do a cruise. They go to Hawaii. You know, the Tahiti. I'm pretty sure could be on the docket, but you guys don't do anything like that.
I feel like lab animal vets are generally a little bit more humble and might be a little bit more introverted, but not all so I just maybe, but yeah, no, it's because we also don't want to be lavish, because what we're doing is supposed to be for the good of the animals and the good of the people. So we're not I feel like lavish people, because because there's again that stigma of like, so we don't want to promote it too much. So
you find yourself introverted?
Yes and no. I feel like doing the relief shifts where I do get to work with clients, I love that. I love that part of me because I get to be a little bit more extroverted. I love talking with people, and so I do like that aspect, but I do feel like sometimes I live in my head. So,
well, when you're down in the basement, as your husband says,
yeah.
Yeah, you really don't have much to talk to. Speaking of which, have you ever... and this is the part I also would have a very hard time with. Do you ever form relationships with any of the animals you take care of?
Yes. So in a way, I feel like our field is a little bit of a crossroads of like shelter medicine, because we are dealing with a high population of animals generally, but they're there all the time, and so some you'll see them daily. And some of them will have names. And so in a way you're kind of, I don't want to say their owner, because you're not. You are just there taking care of them up until a certain point, which is generally the end of the research. And so, which that part can be difficult, but it's also understandable as well. Like the emotions of getting attached, if that makes sense. So. Yeah,
the emotions of getting attached. Do you find it harder ending research or saying goodbye to a loved one's pet?
That's a great question. Probably research, because I know those animals. But I also empathize with putting a loved, like a family pet down, because I empathize with those families as well.
So when people get burned out in lab animal, because it does happen, is it because of all the end of research projects that build up on them? Because the reason why I ask that is when I retired December of 23. I would say starting about June or July of 23, before I even thought I was about retirement, if a euthanasia came in, I would go outside and vomit. There was only so much I could do. Does that happen with the lab animal? Do you guys get together? Do you guys have support groups? What are there some awful stories you've heard
for
lab animal?
For people getting compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, people get sad, especially with some of the higher species, but people get sad even with like working with mice and rats. They get attached. I mean, you're dealing with these animals on a daily basis, and so people talk about it. We actually have a compassion fatigue training scheduled for next Monday. So what I like about lab animal medicine is because there are these resources for if you are experiencing burnout and just dealing with emotions of working with the animals that you love and them having to be euthanized. So I do feel like, at least with lab animal, there is not that you don't have stigma about talking about your attachment, at least, or that's my experience, at least. So
is therapy required of lab animal?
They, according to, I feel like, because we have a lot of regulatory bodies overseeing the work that we do, I believe it is a requirement per one of them. So that's, we're doing the training. So
yeah, I because I could just, I mean, the more I think about it, I guess that's why I don't want to say I was a chicken, but I just couldn't handle the emotions, especially at the end of research, because it's so, I could just imagine you go in there every day for 8 to 12 hours and you're interacting with them. You're their caretaker, you're their voice, you're their everything.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that more people don't just get out of lab animal. What percentage of people do you think that get in the lab animal are like, I'm topping out, I'm done?
Very few. I wish I had a statistic for you, but I feel like it's not that many, because once you're in it, I feel like people move to lab animal, because again, some of those things that I mentioned, like the benefits and the pros of working with in this field. but yeah, I feel like not a lot of people move out of it. Again, I feel like lab animal gives you kind of, again, it depends on where you're at and the program that you're at, but it gives you a little bit more space to deal with moral injury and compassion fatigue and things like that. But I can see like working with primates, that one it would be huge, and I'm sure a primate veterinarian might say something differently. I also feel like we do have pretty good support amongst each other as well. So, yeah.
There would be a lot of bourbon drinking. That's for sure. Yeah. Could you go in depth? Mm-hmm. What is truly involved in being a patient advocate for a research animal?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it starts out kind of at the very beginning, where you have a protocol that is written up. And so it starts there, which is where I feel like you already kind of get to advocate for the animal because you have a outline of what is going to occur. And so that's really nice because there is a institutional animal care and use committee, which is required per law for anywhere that does animal research. And so the IACUC is, which I know you are, I'm sure, kind of a little bit more familiar with that with the IRB, and IBC is a biological kind of one. So anytime that there is animal research, there's a protocol that is written up on what will be done. The number of animals that are going to be used up, obviously the species, procedures, if there's any surgeries, along with obviously if there's any sort of pain that is more than momentary, it is required to have some sort of pain control or anesthetic, kind of provided to those animals. So that's very nice because you get to work as a group with other scientists in the IACUC and veterinarians to kind of refine those protocols. So that's kind of like one of the very first steps. And then obviously during the research process itself, you can refine whatever is going on and advocate for the animal during that time period as well.
If that happens, do they have to go back and do amendments to their research? Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Because just to get saliva tested in mice research, mm-hmm. It wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. And that's just saliva, like we call it the drool method. So mm-hmm. It's not spitting in a cup, mm-hmm. but that's what they're doing. They're spitting in a cup. And it was hard. I could just imagine the steps and the time it takes to just even get a protocol approved. Mm-hmm. So are you in-depthly involved in the protocol too, in all those meetings, or is it more on the researcher to do that?
It's generally more on the researcher to do that, but they can obviously reach out at any point in terms of refinements. For larger species, they generally reach out to it because, again, there is a requirement for larger species, kind of like USDA covered species, if they do have certain procedures, to have a consultation with a veterinarian. And so, yeah, we're very actively involved just because, again, as I mentioned to you, there is a surprising amount of animal research that is being done that people might not know about. And then veterinarians are involved kind of like throughout that whole process, from protocol writing to the active research, where they are kind of checking on the animals daily, and then if there's something that pops up, we help manage it as a case, and then all the way to kind of like endpoint, so to speak, whether it's humane or experimental, because those are different. So
if something does come up and you have to change protocol, mm-hmm. is there a lot of pushback from the researchers or the people funding it? Can they be total jackasses, or are they usually pretty understanding? So
again, just kind of the client, so to speak. And so we do deal with the researchers and PIs, because for PIs, if you think about it, that's their livelihood. Their research is what pays the bills, so to speak, and pays for also often for the salaries of everybody that is in their lab.
And that's how they keep their job too.
Yeah. Well, yes. And so there is sometimes you work with them if there is any sort of disagreement of, let's say, like, hey, this animal, let's say like a tumor study or something like that. And so this tumor is almost at endpoint criteria. And then you notice that it might need some pain meds, and you're like, hey, I think it's reached experimental endpoint or humane endpoint, and so you work with them, and they're like, hey, we need to do it tomorrow, and you're like, okay, but can you give supportive care? Can you give them some extra treatments, and then we'll get you to that extra 24 hours, as long as animal welfare is obviously not compromised, and then you just provide them with what they need. But usually the researchers are pretty responsive. Have I dealt with asshole ones, for lack of a better term? 100% yes. And then, but again, I feel like lab animal is nice.
Okay, so you have an asshole one. Who protects you?
Yes. So in that case, I go to the regulatory side of things. If there is something that is that there's a lot of pushback on, usually the regulations will back up veterinary decisions.
And usually that researcher will never have you again on his project.
Well, the whole thing is the researchers, there's only like a limited number of veterinarians per institution, so they can't pick and choose.
Are there ever times you look at protocols and you're like, there's no way this is ever going to work. This is not going to fly. This is not fair.
Yes.
Who wins that argument?
Us. Yeah. Because then we require for those things to, it's not just me when I say us, I mean like the IACUC is who collectively makes a decision. And sometimes we do have some of those ethical discussions of like, I don't want to say like about silly things like, not silly, like fish. Sometimes we'll have a fish study, and then a fish will be getting a procedure, and then you're thinking, wait a minute, this could be potentially painful. It could be potentially distressful. And then the researcher will say, I don't think so. But then we'll have an ethical discussion amongst the IACUC as to what should be done, and then we'll come up with a collective kind of response, and then send it back, and then the researcher can go, okay, I'll do that, or you can't do it.
And you see all that crap you just mentioned, that's the politic bullshit that I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because I love the fact that you have a governing body that protects you, which we don't usually have in veterinary medicine, right? We supposedly should have some, but we don't. If you were going to take lab animal medicine and put it into general practice, what do you think we could do to better protect the veterinarians?
When you say put lab animal medicine and put it into general practice, what do you mean?
You have the IACUC. So if you think something is completely wrong, you go and then you can have ethical discussions and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When a client comes in and they're like impossible to deal with and want to destroy you.
Yes.
Or someone's talking bad about you, or they want to take you to the state board, or whatever situation you're in. Mm-hmm. There's no one really. Is there a way we could create a system that would help back veterinarians?
I see. Technically, it should be whoever the hospital or the clinic that you're working with. They should have that. And I mean, the state board generally should have your back as well, as long as you're actually doing things correctly, which I know you're laughing at me. I haven't so far. I need to knock on wood.
Right behind you. Yeah.
I haven't. So, and I just, so.
Yeah. But at least in our state, the state board is very client friendly, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, there are some cases that go in front of the state board, and I have seen them, where you're like, what the heck was that? This doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is negligence. Yes, this is malpractice. Yeah. Like, this guy should never have had a bone saw, right?
Yeah.
But I feel as if a lot of times, a lot of those cases that go up there are complete and absolute crap.
But those usually will, because I've read through just curiosity. They say curiosity killed the cat. And so we'll usually from what I've seen, and obviously I haven't read through all the state board cases, but those usually get, kind of, I don't want to say thrown out, but unless if they're really negligent, like you said, so then you're reading it and you're like, oh my God, like I can understand.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that would be nice if there was a governing body, so to speak, that would advocate for veterinarians to deal with, I don't want to say to deal with that pushback that they deal with in small animal medicine, but that's what I feel like makes small animal medicine so difficult, because ultimately there's commonly a difference in goals, so to speak, between the owner or the client and the veterinarian, because the veterinarian wants what's best for the animal, and the owner generally, and I get it, that's the thing, I understand it too, they want to get their pet better but not spend very much and not spend too much time in there too. So there's so many things where
but they want the 40-minute callback. Yes.
So it's like I understand, because imagine if you, at least I have been frustrated going in for having a service done somewhere else, like let's say a car or something like that, and I'm like, man, this is taking so long, this is so expensive, and they didn't even get this done. So you know what I mean? I'm not siding with the client, but I'm just trying to explain that the client might have a difference of goals between the veterinarian who wants what's best for the animal and full treatment and resolution. But I'm just saying that there will always be that conflict generally, and so that's part of just dealing with difficult situations in life, really, because I know that's the whole concept of moral injury, because it's basically an ethical, you have a physiological response to an ethical dilemma, and that's what moral injury really is to an extent. And so when do you not have that, if that makes sense? That's the world, that's life. It's just, but then you have to just learn to understand what it is, but to have that kind of systematic kind of resolution to this, I don't know if there will ever be a governing body that will
protect the veterinarians. Is there a standard of care for lab animal like there is for pets?
Well, again, just kind of those regulatory requirements of the things that we have to do, and then you can obviously there's shoulds, musts, and mays, like based on our regulatory guidelines.
But like everyone talks about in veterinary medicine, they talk about there's the gold standard and then there's a standard of care. Mm-hmm. Does that exist in lab animal too? Is there a gold standard and then there's the standard of care?
There is kind of a gold standard where, let's say, based on regulations, you go and do the mays and shoulds instead of just the musts. And let's say like, I can't think of one at the top of my head, but there's, let's say like the ALAC, ALAC is this governing body, which is a nonprofit organization that does international checks on institutions, which is above and beyond. And so, and they come every 3 years and they check your institution, and it's usually other lab animal vets that look at your institution to make sure that you are up to that ALAC standard.
Is that a required thing, or is that more like an AHA standard?
Kind of like an AHA standard. And so, but generally it makes life easier for ALAC accredited institutions, because they're able to more easily transfer animals between institutions. So it just makes things a lot easier when you're ALAC accredited. And that's what you want. You want that gold standard ALAC. So
if you're looking to do a residency, or we'll just talk about just doing a residency, should you try to get into an ALAC
I don't know of any residencies that are not ALAC accredited. I believe all of the ones that are currently listed are. I think you.
Is that required for them to in order to give a residency? Or like, you know, because in order to offer an internship and residencies, you have to hit a certain standard in small animal, large animal, food animal. In order to offer a residency in lab animal, what is required?
So you have to offer didactic and clinical training. You have to have a certain number of board certified veterinarians per number of students. You have to explain and submit your training program to the residency approval to like ACLAM and things like that. And so I'm pretty sure it has to. I'm pretty sure that all of the institutions that are currently lab animal residencies, I mean, these are, I don't want to say like upscale, very long-lasting programs, like the UCs, UCSD, Stanford, Harvard, Mayo, Penn. I mean, these are all long-standing high-end institutional facilities, and so I generally would not imagine any of them not having, like Michigan. There's a hand. All the ones that I can think of would not have ALAC accreditation. But I might be jumping too.
No, you're not. But I'm just thinking though, like when you do small animal and you did lab animal, we're still practicing, right? You're not perfect.
Yep. Even
any mistake you've made that's really you still stew about, because we all have them. We all have them.
Sure.
Well, now, was it pet?
No, it was in lab animal. There was a primate case. Yes, it's still is in my head, for lack of a better word. There are definitely cases, but then again, it made me a better veterinarian. So, and I feel like that's part of being a veterinarian is you live and learn, and those heavy mistakes is what should make you better. It might not. It might just,
So even with this ethical board that you have to go through, even with all the researchers, even with everything, the idea of perfectionism doesn't exist.
No, that was a question, or is it a statement?
Oh, no, it's both. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
Right.
Yes.
Because the reason why I ask that is like a lot of these early career professionals, they have this whole perfection as a society. It's a societal problem that we think we need to be perfect. But even with all the backing you have, perfectionism is still a myth.
Yeah, for sure. For everything involved, I guess. I mean, yeah, life. You have this idea, and then it's not the way it is, so then you have that conflict, and you just have to not, get all riled up about it, because that's just part of life. I don't know. Might be silly, but
10 years from now, you still in lab animal? Or are you still going to be dabbling in small animal? Are you going to be more small animal? Are you going to go large animal? I mean, I know you're boarded lab, but that doesn't mean you have to stay there. Or do you see yourself going more into academics or more into the, I don't want to say the paper pushing, but just the, just going over protocols and stuff, and instead of actually interacting with the animal?
That's a really good question. In 10 years, I have friends that recommend that I go into more small animal stuff, but I do love lab animal. I'm happy where I'm at. I feel like it gives me a good sense of purpose. It is a good quality of life. One thing that is not good is the salary, which is, I know, another reason that people might be dissuaded from lab animal medicine. But I feel like the longer you're in it, there is a the more experience you get. So hopefully that pays off, so to speak.
Can we talk salary?
Yeah.
Is there a huge difference between public sector and university, right?
So generally like government and maybe a little bit nonprofit and kind of state, like university, academia, a nonprofit, all of that is generally a little bit, you make less versus industry. But industry, you're going to be working, so to speak, instead of
So your work-life balance is different. Well, I hate that. Excuse me.
No.
Your professional sustainability is different. Your quality of life is different.
Yes, I feel like because there you do generally in industry you'll have higher volume, and so you'll still have those regulatory components of being a lab animal vet, but just the space to be able to deal with conflict might be a little bit and that works for some people. Some people love that fast-paced kind of adrenaline kind of go. I feel like
so is it like that fast-paced adrenaline go is that like comparing ER to general small practice, do you think? Or do you think so you're basically working, if you work government, you're probably just a boutique small practice,
like a GP. I feel like the pace for a lab animal is like a GP. You get into like a routine. You come in at whatever 8, and then generally GP, because you're like hospital doors close or clinic doors close at 4 or 5 or whatever. So then everything else would get turfed over to ER to deal with. And ER is like go. And I feel like industry is a little bit more go. But I feel like sometimes I love those moments where it's like go. But I feel like in terms of quality of life and sustainability for things like family and just kind of like your overall mental well-being, it's good to give yourself. And I think that people, veterinary medicine looks down on you, or certain. There's that fad to be like, no, you gotta go. You gotta, even if you're working a full-time job, you gotta pick up some relief shifts. You just gotta be constantly go. And sometimes I feel like that's not healthy, if that makes sense. So,
do you think that's one of the biggest mistakes veterinarians make? Is they think they should be go all the time? They don't take time for themselves. They don't take time to recover. They don't take time to just mentally like control, delete their brain, basically.
I feel like sometimes in vet med, it doesn't, or like some small animal, you just don't have that, the chance to kind of do that. But also there is that kind of like you need to do this. You need to know how to do this. You need to be doing all of these things. So yeah, I guess there is. But then again, I also feel like the new grads, they have such a high like they have to pay off their loans. So that's, I feel like, a huge component as well, because then they feel this like huge burden of trying to pay off their debt. And so that I'm sure that, so then they'll go into ER, which pay, so they're, I'm sure all about this. So
yeah, I the one thing I know a lot about veterinary medicine, but I don't know a lot about lab animal. That's why I'm so intrigued. So if an early career grad is looking, or let's say a resident, or is looking for a job, lab animal, what are the red flags they should avoid if they're offered a job in a lab or government or private sector?
So this is for a new resident. I guess it depends on, actually, you're getting into the nitty gritty.
Like there are red flags
Yes.
that you can tell a new grad to watch out for when they're going into general practice, right?
Yes.
Psychological safety,
Yes.
mentoring,
Yes.
hours worked. What are they requiring of you? Like there are things like I always recommend go and do a working interview, not just for one day, do it for like 3 or 4 days. Interview the staff, interview reception. You know what I mean? Like interview everybody, try to get a feel for it. The red flags should point out.
Yes.
When someone wants to get a lab animal job
After residency.
what would you watch out for?
Word of mouth. Because usually the jobs are, I don't want to say, there are not that many lab animal jobs to the point that you generally can't ask somebody else about it and then not have somebody tell you more in a diplomatic way. I feel like usually we tend to be pretty diplomatic when trying to describe things. And so I feel like somebody might try to dissuade you from going to that place. And so that would be a reason. Obviously, go visit the place and get a feel for it. Obviously, if they've been on the news before, that's generally a little bit of a red flag, I would say, because there are certain animal facilities that have been on the news recently for whatever has happened, for lack of a better term.
Is there a perpetual, like, because there are small practices that have the perpetual ad going because they keep running through.
Oh my
God.
Yes.
So are there lab animal jobs that have the perpetual ad because they can't keep anybody?
Yes, that is a huge red flag as well. And yeah, it's the same because I'll see the same ad popping up for small animal medicine. I'll be like, what's going on over there? That where they constantly have that turnover as well. But yeah, same for lab animal. There are a few that pop up in my mind, and obviously I'm not going to say them.
I don't want you to. Yeah.
Where they do have perpetual openings, and it could be just the location. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, like if it's a perpetual ad in Honolulu, there's probably something going on with the lab or the job itself, not the location.
Yeah, but that's something else to kind of keep in mind, though, for lab animal vets that are going into the field after residency, is that the locations, there's limited locations as well for jobs for lab animal vets. So that's something to keep in mind for like networking and just something to keep in mind, because there's definitely, I feel like everybody wants to be on the coast. I feel like obviously that could depend on like your family and all of that, but those ones tend to kind of fill up a little bit more versus the ones in the middle.
In the center.
Yeah.
Because instead of the ocean, you get the lake or the river.
Yeah, or just in the middle of nowhere, for lack of a better term. So. And
I forgot my question. Unbelievable. I was gonna. So what percentage of universities actually have lab animal veterinarians?
Most of them.
Most of them.
Yes.
Most of the big schools.
Oh yeah, they might not be explicit about it, so to speak, but then I will be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was in the middle of this huge city, that there's animals here. So then you'd be surprised to find out. Even if they don't have residencies, they might have a animal facility. So
they're probably looking for a veterinarian.
Yes.
Do you have to be board certified lab animal to get that university job? Generally not, but they there are certain positions where they say like must have a board certification within a year, must have board certification within 3 years or something. Will they help pay for that board certification?
Some of them, yes, and some of them you might just get like a pay rise after getting board certification. but there are other more senior positions, because generally the way it goes, you have like veterinarian, senior veterinarian, or lead veterinarian, and then you have like associate director or assistant director, and then director. That's kind of like the career stepwise ladder of how it goes. So
the politics.
Yeah.
It's going back to the politics.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, let's have some fun. What did your mom and dad say to you when you said, "Hey, I'm going to be a lab animal veterinarian"?
Both my parents didn't actually want me to go into veterinary medicine in general, and my mom wanted me to go to medical school. She's a nurse, and so like human medicine, and so but I was pretty gung-ho about it, and so once they saw my motivation and passion for veterinary medicine, I think they started to understand more. I feel like they still have no idea what the heck that I do, which is fine. Most people don't. So yeah, I feel like they're okay with it. They're happy with my decision, and so and it's again kind of a pretty good quality of life, because I know friends that work as medical directors or in ER, and they are tired and swamped, and so at least
especially when you use the word medical director, that means they usually work for corporate, and then so the medical director is always on the phone, not only seeing patients, but you're on the phone with the higher ups trying to explain why your hours are off, your inventory's off. Like, you really get into a lot of the HR and the business part as the medical director, which many veterinarians don't want to have anything to do with. Because if they did, they would own their own practice.
Yeah.
So being the medical director is cool, but it also comes with a lot of stuff you probably don't want to do.
Yeah. But I guess it's in a similar way, you have to deal with the same thing in lab animal medicine. So that's kind of something I definitely want to be upfront about as well. Obviously, you could just do a lot. It depends on what your job title is and what where you're at too. But generally, once you move a little bit more towards director, like senior veterinarian, you do have to deal with that management component, and which becomes more and more of your responsibility as well.
Okay, I'm going to name an animal. You tell me the research you did on them.
Sure.
Sheep.
Cardiac surgeries on like bypass and stuff like that.
Rabbits.
Urology research.
Really?
Yeah.
So the rabbit bladder is a lot like...
It's more like the urethra. So, sorry, that's kind of weird to think about. Or like ocular studies. We've done ocular studies as well.
Fish.
Regeneration for zebrafish. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's big.
And rats and mice are more genetics, cancer.
Yeah.
Are they the go-to? Are those two like the go-to?
Generally speaking, because they're a little bit less sentient, so to speak, and you can have all different kinds of mouse models. You can have genetic modifications to mimic any sort of disease or genetic mutation that you might want to be studying, or addition. And there's lots of things that you can do with mice. You can cause immune suppression, so you can study cancer. You can study so many things with them. So just in terms of size-wise, then it might progress to larger species.
Cats.
Hearing studies.
Hearing studies.
Mm-hmm.
Because their ears are so sensitive.
I think.
Hence the ear cleaning and Horner syndrome that is guaranteed to commence.
I think their hearing, just the anatomically, is pretty similar to humans, which is surprising. There's so many species and models that you learn about kind of through this process, where you're like, oh, I had no idea. Let's say like the chinchilla ear is also very kind of similar to human ears, and so and like guinea pigs. So
yeah, well, you did guinea pigs, right?
Yes.
What study was that?
At least the ones that are kind of popping up in my head. There are some infectious studies.
Alligators.
Locomotion. Yeah, locomotion studies. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Because they can go so fast and they're so short. I mean,
I think it's just how their muscles are. I'm not sure if it is like the structure of the actual limb, anatomically, or if it's like the actual muscle physiology, so to speak. But surprisingly, we have some birds, like bipedal birds, kind of like chickens, I guess. They're not chickens, but they also are used to study locomotion with.
That's unbelievable. I never thought I'd use an alligator to study locomotion.
Yeah.
Okay, in closing, name one thing you wish you would have learned in school, but you did not.
In veterinary in vet school? That's a great question. How to set boundaries. I wish I learned how to set boundaries in vet school. Yes.
Do you have to worry about boundaries in lab animal as much as you do in small animal, large animal?
Less, but sometimes they're self-imposed, if that makes sense. So just, boundaries.
But doesn't everyone who's involved in the study that you're working on basically have your cell phone number?
Oddly enough, you don't have to share it. I tend to, because I like to be there in case of anything. But you can also, because we have like a work phone that unless you're on call, you don't worry about it. And so, but yeah, which I might be actually not saying that I don't have as many boundaries, because people will call me or text me all the time, but I love to be there to help if they have any questions. So
yeah, because I would think it would be hard, because boundaries in lab animal, I mean, because your name's all over all the papers, right? Everyone who's involved in that research, their name, email is all in that paper. So
yeah.
Well, at least you don't have people calling you asking about Fluffy, who's up screaming at 2 a.m.
Yeah, generally. But I do understand. Sometimes I've had like a researcher reach out to me on like a Friday evening. I'm sipping on my sangria. I'm like, I look at my phone. I'm like, oh man, not this guy again. So, but sometimes that's just I think part of our personalities generally as veterinarians, because we tend to be people pleasers.
Exactly. So, I was about to say we're people pleasers.
Yeah. So sometimes I understand setting boundaries is a little bit difficult. So.
Okay. Well, basically what it comes down to is, if you do have questions for Kat, please get a hold of me, and I'll get them to Kat, because we understand what she's doing is amazing. They're very intriguing, but of course there's also people who don't believe in what you're doing.
I'm aware. I think there's even a stigma within veterinary medicine as well, which I think is understandable, but sometimes difficult to accept, at least. Yeah.
So if you do have questions, please get a hold of me. I will get them to Kat. We'll get them back to you. If you have questions about lab animal medicine residencies, please get them to me. I'll get them to Kat. She'll get them to you. I just want to say thank you to Kat for being here today. It was awesome having you here. You answered a good amount of my questions that I had. I still don't know how you do some of the things you do without losing it. I don't know how you deal with the politics, because I can't do that without losing it. That's why I got fired. And and the thing is also, I love the fact that you said it's important to know that we're not going to be perfect, even though we have all those people, and you got to set boundaries, and boundaries are very important. I think lab animal medicine, unfortunately, is not highly regarded in our profession all the time, but it sounds like a job that, if clinics are not working for you, or you don't think clinical medicine is going to be your fit, it's definitely something you can go to. And just like with Kat, you can go do relief shifts as a small animal veterinarian, because you have to remember, you are a veterinarian. You are not replaceable. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.